Regular session, Mayor City Council meeting, 6 p.m. Wednesday, March 10th, 2021, City Hall Complex Council Chambers. I call this meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Madam Clerk, will you please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much.
Once again, we have Ms. Walker will provide that information for
Mayor, members of the council, you should have in front of you the financial report through January 31st of 2021, and this will cover the first 7 months of the fiscal year, which the fiscal year begins July 1 of 2020 and goes through June 30th of 2021. The first analysis that we always do is look at the percentage of where we're at. As I mentioned before, if everything was equal and perfect, you would take in 8.33% a month and spend that amount every month. So what that means is that you would be at 58.31% of collections through the end of January, as well as expenditures, all things being equal. The good news is, once again, we're right on with projection. It's kind of good news, bad news. I wish I was here to tell you we were beating the projections, that we were taking in more revenue than what we presented or adopted, but we are right on target, which is still good news that we're not below that target. We're about 58%. On the expense side, and this is a general fund, on the expense side for the general fund, we're at 52%, so we're about 6% below budget. So the revenues are coming in more than the budget at this point in time. One of the things that I did want to mention that we just got word of this week was the passage of the stimulus package and what that means for the city of Nogales. And it will mean a total of $4,796,878 for the city of Nogales. It will be paid out in 2 equal payments. One will be for the July of 2022, and then 12 months later, you get the second payment. The only restrictions, and the league is still reading over everything and covering to make sure that there's not other restrictions that we need to know about to be in compliance. But the 2 that they do know about right now is that you cannot take that money and cut taxes as a result of receiving that money. The other thing you can't do is to pay down pension obligations. So those right now are the only 2 restrictions we're going to have as we go into the fiscal year 22 budget. So that is very good news for the city. On the major revenue categories, the sales tax collections really are going to look high. If you look at table B, which is our collection activity, what I found out was that there were a lot of December revenues that hadn't been posted till January because they were at the end of the month and they got carried over to January. So that we're looking at the most up-to-date data. I have asked the finance staff to record it in the month that it's received so that we don't have these swings from month to month. But the good news is, yeah, we were showing we didn't take in about $664,000 in December, but we made it up by $643,487 in January. So the total amount that we're short as compared to what you took in for the first 7 months of last fiscal year is about $295,000. The good news is we anticipated being less, so that's why we're still on target with the budget. So we didn't budget that additional $295,000, so we're not in trouble, but it's just to kind of give you a gauge of where the economy is in the city of Nogales this year as compared to the first 7 months of the prior fiscal year. On the state shared revenues, again, we're still doing okay. It's slightly above the January budgeted. The state shared revenues would include the state urban revenue sharing income tax, state shared sales tax, and vehicle license tax, and we're about close to 10 grand above where we should be through January. And as I mentioned before, the expenditures are below the budget of 52%. And the 3 areas that are a little bit higher is MIS, what we talked about, buying some equipment and it leveling off by the end of the year, and contracts early on. The fire department looks like it's over budget, but it needs a budget transfer because they carried forward some reserves for the fire engine that they had ordered, and that needs to be moved up. And once that's moved up, they're right in line with where they need to be on the budget. And then the cemetery, we know all along that that has been above budget because of staffing issues, and that probably will take a budget transfer before the end of the year, before we finalize the end of the year. On the HERF and overweight fees, again, as we've talked about, the highway user revenues are down because people are staying home, and they might even go down even more now that gas prices have gone up. People may not travel as much with those prices going up. But we are below budget by about $372,000. The good news is you've only spent 35% of your budget, but I know there's a lot of things coming up that you want to do street work in, and we're going to be using some fund balance moving forward because we're not taking in the revenues like we have in prior years. Hoping to see maybe some improvement next year, but right now that's where we're at through January. And the thing that's saving you is the expenditures are less than the budget. Overweight fees, same thing. They're really below budget, and you know that with the border closing, and so but the expenditures are only at 2%. So you're not spending more than you're taking in. Bottom line. On utility funds. Yes.
On overweights, we had a couple of months that were completely zero because that's by order of the governor. Can we get the last month or two that we've had overweight fees? Any comparison to those 2 months?
To which 2 months?
We haven't had we had what September, October, November without overweight fees.
And that's what we did in the memo. If you look at the expenditures, the revenues compared to the prior year, overweight fees are at $186,491 year to date. And for fiscal year, let's see, they're about $357,000 less than what you collected during the same time period the prior year. So because of those months where you didn't have the border open, you've lost about $100 and some thousand in fees. So, again, they've come up again compared to budget, but we did lower our budget knowing that there was COVID-19. Okay. But it was $357,204 through January, or below what was collected from June of 19 through January of 20.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
On the sewer fund, again, the revenues are at 66% versus the 58%, and primarily it's because of the sewer disposal fees. The increase in that is so large, it's raising the other revenues up by that. On the expenditure side, we're at 37% of budget versus 58%. So again, your revenues are more than covering your expenditures in the sewer fund. On the water fund, it's a little bit less than the budget. It's at 51%. And I think there's a discussion on the agenda later this evening about the aging report and how we're not collecting as much revenue as we have in the past. So that's probably why that number's down, is that people aren't paying on time. And so that number's down on the collection activity. However, again, the expenditures are down to 36% of budget on a year-to-date expenditure, so you're okay. On sanitation fund, they're at 56% of the budgeted revenues through January, and they've only spent 39%. So what I attached is all the schedules with all the detail that I just went over, as well as the distribution list that was given out by the league on the what they call the relief fund. They don't call it the Arizona CARES Act, it's called the Relief Fund, and we will keep council posted as we get more and more details on that moving forward. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Guess we're okay, Pat?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, go ahead.
sort of like a rumor saying that the March 22nd that might be opening the fourth
That's what I heard.
for the venture.
Yeah, I'm hoping that that happens. You know, you heard that too, also, Vice Mayor. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, you know, it sounds more legit than the other times.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So everybody follows the CD requirements, and
Yes.
obviously why not?
Yes. You know, and well, you saw what the governor did this past week. He basically opened everything up again. You
That's
know.
what.
Yeah.
Councilman Maldonado.
Yeah, that's which is something good to a certain point. It's giving the municipalities the opportunity to be able to judge, according to the CDC, you know, to see if I would just some minute guidelines on certain things. But besides that, you know, I'm glad everybody's has that idea of opening up. I think we need to, you know, talk economy and talk everything else. Hopefully, everything goes well.
And then also they're ramping up the vaccinations across the line.
Yeah, I saw that
They're
too.
doing the Pfizer.
Mhm.
Yesterday they got my son and they gave her the Pfizer shot.
Yeah. I saw
They
that.
no appointment, no nothing. Go there and
Uh-huh.
if you meet the age requirement with your fiancé with that,
Mhm.
they take it.
Yeah.
They're working 8 to 8. Well, yesterday working 8 to 8 every day. I don't know where they got the vaccines. That's what I told my wife. You know, we're having a hard time getting vaccines over here, and they got us an extra abundant supply over there. I mean, you know. So, but yeah, they're getting the whole population vaccinated.
With tequila.
Yeah, maybe they were just stocking it up to wait for the moment. Never mind. But I'm glad they're doing it. Yeah, I'm glad they're doing this.
I have a question. Mr. Chairman, do you mind if Mrs. Walker provides this information before the meeting, a few days before the meeting? Do you think it's possible?
So I will certainly ask her. I know she did provide it last time, so I'll certainly ask her.
Okay.
Okay. We'll go to discussion items. No, we'll go to the proclamation. I got it right here. Okay. You know, Proclamation Library Week. Whereas libraries of all types are at the heart of their cities, towns, schools, campuses serving their communities. Whereas libraries are accessible and inclusive places that foster a sense of belonging and community. Whereas today's libraries and their services extend far beyond the four walls of a building, and everyone is welcome to use the resources. Whereas for people lacking broadband at home, libraries provide access to computers and Wi-Fi, even checking out internet hotspots and laptops. Did you hear that, Letty? Maybe we can get to their hotspots so we can have internet in City Hall. Let's call it, you know. Whereas, yeah, I know. Whereas libraries strive to develop and maintain programs and collections that are as diverse as the populations they serve and ensure of access for all. Whereas libraries offer opportunities for everyone to explore new worlds and become their best selves through access to technology, multimedia content, and educational programs. Whereas in times of crisis, libraries, librarians, and library workers play an invaluable role in supporting their communities both in person and virtually. Whereas to adapt to our changing world, libraries are expanding the resources and continuing to meet the needs of their patrons. Whereas libraries are cornerstones of democracy, promoting the free exchange of information and ideas for all. Whereas libraries have long served as trusted and treasured institutions for all members of the community, regardless of race, creed, ability, sexual orientation, gender identity, or social economic status. Whereas libraries, librarians, and library workers are joining library supporters and advocates across the nation to celebrate National Library Week. Now therefore I, Arturo Argarino, Mayor of the City of Nogales, Arizona, do hereby proclaim April 4th to the 10th, 2021 as National Library Week. Thank you very much. Listo, Leti. Okay, number 5, discussion items. Discussion possible direction to staff regarding an update on Techia Park project. Mr. Thompson?
Mayor, members of the council, I have Mr. Bachelier up at bat in case I stray away or misrepresent anything.
Yeah.
I'm sure he'll jump in. So last week ago, 2 weeks ago, we had a conversation with one of our grant writers, and she was very excited about a grant opportunity that we are engaging in to cover some of the costs for the park. And if I remember correctly, it's a matching type of a grant. Therefore, we would match a certain amount, they would do the same, and so forth, so forth. The only issue we have with that at this point is timeframes. This grant is locked into a 3-year timeframe, which means we could certainly do one of two things. Number one, phase it out, the construction of the park, phase it out into two phases. The first one would be the general park, the walking path and everything. Leave the second phase, which we will refer to the amphitheater. If we do this, what it does is we can approach, handle, and conquer the first phase, and then apply for the grant, and that starts the clock again. Because what we're seeing at this point is the amphitheater is a little bit more intricate to build, so to reach towards or to accomplish construction documents, it'll probably take a lot longer than the 3 years we're anticipating to meet the time frame of the grant. I don't know if that made sense. In other words, if we approach the full grant for the full amount to build the whole park beginning to end, there's a fear that we might not be able to achieve it within the 3 years. Why? Because of the intricacy of the amphitheater.
And, excuse me, and that would also increase our matching.
Right. Right. So
Okay.
in this case, if we phase it out into two parts, we somewhat have or would be able to get a construction cost of phase one, and we can anticipate that, and it's a lot lesser than phase two. Knowing what we know now in comparison to the next year or so, there may be an issue where we might not be able to hit that match. And we're confident that we could do the first part now and get something at a 50% build, the overall project, of course, and then tackle the amphitheater a little bit later. If we do so, I just think it would be more effective for us to be able to accomplish this goal than trying to beat a time clock that we probably won't be able to and end up losing everything, if not all of it, or parts of it. There are options for extensions, although those are not guaranteed. So that is the highlights that we have for the park right now. And if I can, Marcel, did I say that right by chance?
Yes, Robert, everything you said was correct.
Okay, so I wasn't completely asleep the time we talked about it. It's a lot of new stuff for me to mold into. But right now, I think in talking with John, Marcel, the grant writer, and the grant people, it's probably best to take that avenue, and it'll assure a complete project. It'll take a little bit more, but it'll assure at least the project to complete.
Well, one of the things I think that would be best, and I'm the way you're thinking about doing phasing it out, I think it's a lot better, because the section that's probably needed more is the one for the kids and the basic park itself.
Correct.
The amphitheater was an extra opportunity, but that's great to have an amphitheater, and I hope we can complete the whole thing like it was designed for, and that's the reason we got that property, to do that. But to wait 3-4 years on something that we've been waiting already 2 years, I honestly believe that we better start thinking about working on the phase one and get some of that done. That's the way I feel. Go ahead, Councilman.
Yeah, Robert,
Yes.
do we still have previous funding for that?
I'm not too sure, Marcel. Do we still have any previous funding for the park?
Yes, there's 193,000 that was budgeted this year for that project.
This is for the actual,
Um,
for the
Yeah,
actual
and to
construction.
date, we have expended 40,000 basically.
Is that on the architect or design?
Yeah, that's all on design work.
So Marcel, with the money we have right now, we have enough to either to get some of that work done or what? How much of it do you know?
So we have enough monies in what's been budgeted for this fiscal year to move forward so that we can get to 100% completion of the construction documents, which also includes from one of the contractors walking us through the bidding process and selection as well as project management.
And then after that, Marcel, we would have to get the match for that grant to be able to start construction.
That is correct.
And I think maybe that's the direction we should need to go, Mr. Thompson. Yes, to start going because I don't think we should go into our next budget process without investing on that. If we already have something that we already budgeted for.
Yes, sir.
And that's, what do you think, guys?
I agree.
It's a very good idea.
Everybody agree with that? So we have to vote on this, Mr. Lawrence?
You don't have to.
Just direction.
Sure, direction is both.
Yeah, so, Mr. Thompson, you got your marching orders, sir?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Marcel, thank you very much, Marcel.
You're welcome, Mayor.
Okay, we'll go to number 2, discussion, direction, possible action, creating a selection team to review and select a grazing license for cattle grazing on 480 acres of city property. Mr. Thompson.
Mayor, before we even dive into this, I want to just point out, had a little sidebar with Council Member Montiel, and there may be a conflict, so she's asking if she could recuse herself from any voting or discussion at this point. Am I okay to say that?
Yeah.
The conflict derives from her husband, Mr. Montiel, owning or having an interest in the property as well.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah.
No problem whatsoever.
So even absent of her vote, we still have a quorum in case we need to
No,
go.
no problem, yeah.
So with,
Just before you go any further, I know we're discussing, I talked to Mr. Massey about this 20 minutes ago. I know we're discussing to getting a committee together. But we already have 2 people that have already bidded on this or kind of have an idea of what they want to put into this,
correct.
you know? And then our racing license says 50 cows, 50 head of cattle. And the other ones are talking a couple hundred.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know if our grazing license committee is gonna come up with the idea of how many cows or what they're gonna do with it over there. But if we have a grazing license that says so much, this is, I think this is what we need to go with.
Yes, sir.
Okay? But if we have 2 people with proposing different bids on it, and both of them are saying that one will have so many cows and the other one so many cows, then that means that nobody has been following this.
No.
Correct.
Okay, so I don't know what happened in all these years that we had this, and what happened to the number 50 and 500. I don't know. Explain that to me.
Yes, Mayor, maybe I think I misspoke, but I was speaking from memory, which is very faulty sometimes. What we have is, yes, we proposed no more than 50 head of cattle on this parcel, that's 480 acres, and that's from previous requests for proposals, so we're just following along with history. But the current licensee, and he's very familiar with the property, he is suggesting that the land really was overgrazed when he started his lease. And so he's suggesting that only 20 and not 50 head should be what we should view as the land being properly managed and carried. And of course, as the owner, we have, an interest to make sure that the land isn't overgrazed. So, yeah, so he's suggesting that we withdraw the 50 concept and put it down. So I think that's the idea, is that the committee should investigate whether that's true or not. And I think that is beyond, we were talking among ourselves at the staff level, Mayor. We're not cattlemen.
No.
At the city attorney's office.
I do love a burger though.
Yeah, there you go. So it's hard for us to evaluate this, and so that's why we're suggesting that maybe there are people, maybe even on this dais, who have cattle experience that can
I
evaluate that.
recommend Councilman Aldonado to be the chairman of our committee, to start with, if you don't mind, sir.
I don't mind,
Yeah,
I
but this committee is only gonna say,
Recommend, it'll have to come back to
not
city.
recommend who's gonna have,
Well,
who's gonna be leasing it.
but they should look at the issue of what the carrying capacity is, right?
Yeah, and then bring it back to
And then
us.
bring it back to council, yeah.
Mr. Maldonado, can you?
I don't mind, I'd be glad to, yes, I do. I've been in the business with cattle for most of my life, but more recently, the last 4 years. But yes, there's a limit to what you can do with the land and what you should and should not do. And I think that'd be the best thing for the city to
Right.
have somebody look into it
And then we have Mr. Acevedo, the
Right.
PD could probably,
So we will reach out to him, see if he's willing to be part of the team, and just housekeeping issue there. Certain somebody is texting me, making sure that we use the terminology team.
Team.
And that certain somebody would be John.
Yeah.
So if we can just stick to the word team, because this way there's some requirements like minutes and stuff like that if we form a committee. In
okay,
this case,
yes,
it'll
that's
just be
it.
a selection team for the process.
So,
So-
Mr. Garcia, what do you think? 2, 3 people? 4 people?
That's right, that's enough.
That's enough?
That's enough, but I think there's direction of sufficient to.
Yeah, so that you can find somebody else?
And a quick question, would 2 members be enough? Are we looking for a third?
My recommendation would be a third.
What do you think, Mr.
In
Maldonado?
case we do have a tie?
Yeah, we could find a third, but I don't have nobody in mind right now. But one thing I want to let everybody know. I know both of these people that have done their proposal. I have personal relationship with them and known them for quite a bit. So just
Is there a conflict?
No.
Okay,
I'm as
As long as there's no
I'm as neutral as they come.
there you go.
I got no problem with that.
As long as there's no conflict. And
I know.
and after they come up with what they need, do they have to propose again? Because I don't think this is gonna be good anymore.
We'll probably have to look at that, Mayor.
Yes,
I'm not
because
ready
if we're
to
gonna
say for
change
certain.
this,
Yeah,
we have to change these,
there you go.
okay?
Yeah.
So whatever you come up with,
Mhm.
we're probably gonna be changing this now. And then we have to put it out again for bid.
That's it. This crazy license, the city
City did that.
Yes, we followed
created
that.
it, we created it.
We created it from what previously existed, Mayor.
Okay. Yeah, 'cause there's a limit, so many per acre and something like that. And it all depends
The land también, no?
and the amount of water you have and.
Right, and I guess.
If you read this, we don't supply the water.
Mhm.
We don't supply a lot of
We
it.
do not supply water.
And if you read it well, it says that it's a 1-year lease and we can terminate it in 30 days if we have to terminate it. So basically, a lot of this is gonna stay on the lease agreement, except I think there's an issue with how many
Number
heads
4.
of cattle.
Number 4.
Yeah, how many heads of cattle and other things. I mean, you don't have to, the whole thing doesn't have to be rewritten, you know.
Okay.
You're basically, I guess the best thing to do is meet with Mr. Massey to find out exactly what is it that you're gonna be doing as a team.
Okay.
That'll be okay,
No
Councilman?
problem.
All right, we'll go that direction then, Mr. Massey.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay, number 3. Discussion, direction, and possible action regarding suspending the policy of not shutting off water of utilities accounts for lack of payment associated with COVID-19 pandemic. Mr. Thompson.
Yes, sir. Mayor, members of the council, I think we're at a point now that we need to start looking at our revenue shortfalls, for lack of a better term. We all received a packet a little bit late or earlier on before the meeting, and the actual number is way at the back there. Total of $636,300 and change in unpaid water bills. We understand that we're still knee-deep in the pandemic. We do understand that there are financial constraints across the board. However, what we're inclined to do is put notices out to these individuals on this long list and say, hey, we're wanting to collect monies that are owed. However, we don't want to collect from one day to the next. A payment plan would be nice, and we can engage that through our water personnel people. Language on the notices that we'd be sending out, and there's a copy or at least an example of one that we would need to put on there. Do we want to give an additional 30, 60-day grace period for individuals who owe these bills to come in and do the plan before we even go out and shut utilities at this point? Utilities in question are basically 3 of them: water, sewer, and garbage collection, and it could be a combination of all 3. So we know that. Doesn't specifically address just people of the city of Nogales, but anybody who uses our services or our utilities in the outskirts. So here we are, faced on the fact, should we proceed and collect with everything that we've talked about, notices, an extension of 30 days, 60 days, what have you, or do we just, for lack of a better term, continue with a forbearance till a different time?
Go ahead.
Mr. Thompson, I see some bills here for over $9,000. Are these businesses or are these
Some-
businesses?
Yeah, some of these are associated to businesses, some of these are, and what it is if we look at the chart, you see the 120 day, that is the amount that was owed as of 3 months ago. So that could be anything extending all the way back up until March or April of last year that we implemented this policy of not shutting utilities down. So it could be anything from March of last year all the way up to 120 days ago. That's how much they owe, plus the following 3 months. So
these businesses still exist?
some of them may be out there, and we haven't really engaged them, but obviously they do, as they still have a current balance for the month of February and March, or at least for beginning of March and most of February.
They're all active accounts.
There you go. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Well, my opinion is that we should start collecting, giving them an opportunity to come in payments or whatever. But the city also needs the money, and it's a lot of money involved.
Correct, Madam Vice. So I guess if we do go down that route to collect, for lack of a better term, I think it's probably best for the city, at least in all fairness, because of what's happening. We should offer a time frame before we go out and disconnect, and that time frame would allow individuals to come in and create a payment plan, settle their bill, or what have you. The question I pose is, what would be that time frame? Is 30 days too short, too long? Should we look at a 45 to a 60 day? And I think that's the question we've all been, playing with, because we understand the circumstances, and we're human, and emotions come into play, and we know some of these people on these lists.
Yeah.
Right? We know a lot of these people on these lists, and we know that some went through a financial hardship, others may not have as much. However, the fact is, if we do venture, how much time would we allow?
Mr. Thompson, there's one
Yes.
for you. Sorry.
Well, I would suggest you get the wheels going right away, because the longer you wait, the more money you're gonna owe, and the harder it is going to be for them to pay. I would suggest within 30 days, give them an option to come in and make arrangements. If they can't pay the whole thing, if they get paid $20 a week or $20 a month or 100, depending on what arrangements could be made, I think that people should be aware that this bill is not gonna go away by itself, that they're gonna have to come in and talk to the water department, to the finance manager, yourself, whoever is gonna take the lead on this, and make arrangements, say, hey, hard times, but I'm here, I'm willing to pay, I'll pay you so much, or give me 30 more days, or whatever arrangements, but people have to be responsible and face up to their obligations and make arrangements. If they come in and they talk to the city of Nogales and say, I've been without work and this and that, you can extend the time frame or whatever if they can prove they are really going through a hardship. Because a lot of people say, I'm going through hardship, I can't pay. But if people in dire straits can come in and prove that they're in dire straits, sure, we'll give them an extension of time, we'll give you 6 months so you get back on your feet. But people that can make payments, I think, we're having a hard time maintaining infrastructure. We have to pay employees, we have to pay insurance, we have to pay a lot of things here at the city of Nogales, and it's the debt does not go away. So we have to protect our infrastructure. We have to pay our employees, and how do you do that? You get revenues to be able to provide all these services, and that's a big cost. And we just can't let it go because of COVID or anything like that. It just, people have to be resourceful. They have to find a way to make arrangements to pay their fair due, their fair share. What's being charged is fair. We have some of the lowest water rates in the state, I believe. We're not overcharging or price gouging or anything like that. So yes, people do need a break. Give them a break, but they have to come in and ask for assistance. You just can't turn a blind eye and just keep it out of sight, out of mind.
Actually, there's been a lot of people, myself being one of them, that during the whole COVID crisis, I paid for my water, my sewer, my sanitation. I know a lot of people that did.
I did mention it.
I know you. I always see you when I come in with your bills.
Every council meeting, I come with my water bill.
Yeah, and the thing is that I think we've given a lot of time. All right, 8 months, 9 months, 10 months. I don't know how long when we started this. Even though it's been a year now that COVID started, the pandemic, and we can't extend it too long anymore. We have to, this is where we have to. These are enterprise funds. Enterprise means that they basically pay for everything. We don't get money from our general fund to pay for these things. They're customers, and that's how it works with these three funds. And plus, within the next week or two, a lot of people are going to be getting the stimulus check. $1,400 worth. I'm gonna be one of them. Because if you're not over 80,000, you're gonna be getting it. So that could be an opportunity to catch up on some of the bills. But I do understand the part about writing letters. That's the first thing you need to do. Write a letter, but don't say that we're going to give you 6 months to pay. No, we can't be doing that. You got this within the next month. You come and do the payment plan if you cannot pay for the whole thing, and that's simple as that. And then within that month time, you make a payment plan to see how you're going to catch up with it and stuff.
And one point I want to put out there, Mayor, is that this list is absent of any accounts who have already gone through the process or going through the process saying, City, I can't pay you the full amount, however, I can do this much. And we've accepted them,
Yes.
and they're not under a delinquent status per se. And the point I'm trying to make is it can happen because it is happening. And these are individuals who had the incentive to come in and do it for themselves.
And that's good. That's
Yeah.
good. They started before you, without you even, sending them a letter. That's good. I mean, my brother told me the same thing. He did payments while he was going through the whole process, and there's a lot of people that did that because some of them called me, if it was okay to do it, and I said, yeah, just inform the city and you can do the payment plan. So it's not. But one thing I did tell everybody that I did talk to, that nobody was going to go out there and shut your water up during the COVID, and that's what we did. We honored that to help everybody in the community. I think it's time for us to come back and start, getting this ahead so it won't get a little further back on us. You were going to say something, so.
Can we incentivize our customers? Let's say that see a bill like for $1,000, they want to come in there and pay it in full. What can we give them if they want to pay it all, or at least say a bit more than 95%? Can we incentivize them with a certain percentage off, or is it illegal? Or
Mr. Massey's here to tell you.
Well, normally, Mayor, we would be charging interest on these aging accounts and also applying penalties. And then we would have the
So we're not doing
ability
that.
to waive some penalties. But since we're not charging interest and we're not adding penalties, these accounts are what they are.
That's about it's a good of an incentive that you can get. Were you going to say something?
What's the deal with the Rio Rico sewer? They're 290,000, it's almost half of the.
So, John, you can jump on this one because I know I'm probably gonna mess it up.
Sure, I can help answer that one.
Yeah, please.
Robert.
Please.
So what happened when we produced this list is that we produced this list for all delinquent accounts short of the book that contains Valle Verde, Councilman. And Rio Rico was delinquent because Rio Rico had I think, what I'm talking about is the utilities out in Rio Rico. They had an agreement with the city where they were paying so much per treated gallon of wastewater. The city passed a new rate increase at one time where we changed the rate that Rio Rico would pay. So Liberty, I think it's called Liberty Utilities, disputed that increase, and we're only paying what was being charged to them in a previous agreement. The matter was passed over to our legal department, and I'll pass it on to Mike to tell us kind of where that ended up, but it's my understanding with talking to our revenue people that they have paid that substantial amount down. Did I say that right, Mike?
You said everything right, but I don't know what else I should add to that, John and Mr. Mayor. So I'm not prepared to really say anything at this point.
Right.
It's just that what we do is we tend to bill them a specific amount per month, and I think they've been paying it, but our overall agreement though is once we settle up with IBWC, we will settle up finally with Rio Rico, because if we end up, it depends, they owe us a proportionate amount and we owe IBWC a proportionate amount. So, but since our situation with IBWC isn't finalized, then our situation with Rio Rico, unfortunately, also cannot be precisely finalized.
So
they,
I think it was hard, but I think it was Councilman Bojorquez that was asking the question. When we ran this aging report, the computer kind of spits it out, and you would have to really dive through it to figure out, who's who and what's going on all of them. but the Rio Rico, or Liberty, water, issue, Councilman, has nothing to do with COVID. It has nothing to do with a policy that you passed. However, it is reflected in that report.
So the total in the pack is not accurate?
The dollar amount in the packet that we gave to you is a good estimate of what's pending, Councilman. But is it 100% correct exactly for the forgiveness of COVID? No, but it's pretty close.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Yes, everybody good?
So we're gonna give them a 30-day or,
Wow, that, I don't think it should go past 30 days.
I don't think so, either. Mhm. Because some of them are already 120 days.
Within 30 days, they have to make a payment
Yeah.
arrangement.
Uh-huh.
Not saying that you have to come in within 30 days and pay the
No.
balance.
Correct,
You have to make a payment arrangement.
Uh-huh.
correct.
And at that time, you'll tell whoever you discuss with here about the payment, how much you're gonna be paying monthly.
Mhm.
And I think that'd be very fair.
That's fair.
That's fair from the city. You know, and also, during the payment arrangement, my suggestion is not to say that you're gonna go shut it down.
Right.
I think somebody that needs to water shut down is somebody that completely neglects to pay
The 30.
after the
Yeah.
30 day.
Correct.
But I mean, you should work with the customers the best you can for, And remember, I don't know how many, because I didn't want to see the list, because it's disappointing, But I don't know how many of these people could also be elderly, and and stuff. And some, we've always been very good about that. We never shut anybody's water on Fridays, be it whatever, because you don't want to leave anybody out with the water on the weekend. So our business is from Monday to Thursday. But the thing is that they have to try and do the best they can to come and pay.
Right.
But let's work with them.
Yeah, and the intent's not to shut anybody down, disconnect utilities. The
Yes.
intent is to bring them up to par with a 30-day grace period to do something on their own will. And then we can work with, if it's an extra $10, $20, what have you.
Yeah, because
we can work with it.
if I was in that situation myself right now, and next week I was to get the stimulus, $1,400, I'd take care of it right now. I'd start right there. Because there's going to be a lot of money floating around in 2 weeks.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah. Yes.
So are we gonna be suspending this policy? No?
Well, what we're going to be doing is giving direction for them to follow through on the 30-day thing, because we don't have anything really, suspending the policy that we had from the beginning. Yes, we're suspending that policy, but giving direction to follow up on that.
So if I can
So,
just.
Mayor and Council, we already don't shut off past due utilities unless they become more than, I think it's 3 months. So at the third month of being delinquent is when we shut them off anyway.
Yes.
All we're really asking for council, because at the beginning of the COVID, council suggested that we would not shut off anybody for lack of payment. But if we reverse that, then that a policy, what would happen was anybody who's at least 3 months, we would be sending them this late notice that they're in jeopardy of cutoff. So we would expect that people who are 3 months behind make immediate arrangements with our people here to start a payment plan and get going, or risk being shut off.
Yeah, but John, what I mean is that we want to give them at least a month to do the payment plan.
We would hope that they would immediately come in and make contact
Yeah, the
with
ones that
us
are 3 months that are.
to make a payment plan.
Yes.
And during the payment plan, we could extend the first payment on the payment plan a month out.
Yes, okay. All right, so that's great. Yes, go ahead, Councilman.
John, if some of the people don't pay their balance and they get their water shut off, are they gonna be, billed for opening up the water again?
Yes, sir.
How much is the fee for that?
I don't remember off the top of my head, but I want to say it's, I don't know, somewhere around $50, I think.
All right, thank you.
Mayor, that was part of the rates that were adopted because it was rates and fees that were adopted. I believe it was 2016 or after the council approved it, but it was, all of these fees are approved by city council.
And George está. ¿Eh? George. Nosotros no estamos aquí. Tú estás aquí. ¿Qué
Están
dices?
echando la culpa.
Ese día está conmigo.
Estoy jugando, George. Al día también tú estás jugando.
Going back to that point, Mayor,
Yes.
the way that our future is looking, gas rates going up, the Fed's gonna raise the interest rate, the price of everything is going up. We might have to revisit that because, the infrastructure and all that we're gonna be doing in the future. A piece of pipe is gonna cost you twice as much, a piece of wood is gonna cost you twice as much, so, we're gonna have to revisit the water rates again.
And and that's moving fast too.
Yeah.
Just look at the gasoline.
Yeah, look at the gas, right, exactly. Yeah, so we better keep that in mind too, that cost of doing business is gonna go up quite a bit.
Mr. Massey, just on the suspending, then Bill just had direction on.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ms. have it. Number 4, discussion, direction, and possible action of City of Nogales coronavirus, 119 guidelines to extend closure of city facilities. Mr. Thompson?
Mayor, members of the council, although we're doing fantastic with our vaccinations, I think, and seeing this personally, working with them and everything involved with it, I still believe that we should still err on the side of caution and maintain closed until our numbers get a little bit better. I know our infection rates are remarkable compared to 4 months ago, 5 months ago, but however, there has been some lifts from restrictions from the governor's office on his executive order. I think it's kind of early to see what's happening. We're still only been 4 or 5 days of that. So I suggest or recommend that we continue closed for the meantime.
Where are we at in the percentage of vaccines?
And I know, John, was it 31 or 32%?
I'll give it to you in a second here, hold on, and bring it up. As of today, Mr. Mayor, 32% of our adult population have received the first vaccine, and 19% of our adult population have received both the first and the second vaccine.
Yeah, we're still low. I thought it was higher than that. Okay.
What's promising is we'll be receiving, or we have received, the Johnson & Johnson 1 dose. So those numbers will start catching up to each other. At least that's the theory.
But Johnson & Johnson was going to be like one delivery or something, for what I understand?
I'm hoping that's not true, but we don't know that.
Because I heard that after the 14th, it's Moderna or something like that.
Back to Moderna?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, maybe that's, I think maybe we should, I talked to some of the staff earlier this week, how they felt, especially in the front here. And they said that it'd be nice if we could still, keep it the way it is right now until we get a little bit more people vaccinated. So, that's the field of staff also. Mr. Were you going to say something?
Yeah, I talked to Mr. Johnson and I talked to people down there at Mariposa, and they asked us as a city to try to support them and getting more, put
Vaccines.
pressure in the state because they're not getting it. They're we're ready to apply, but they're not getting it. So,
Are we still like at 1,000 every time they deliver? or-
Right, we're roughly about 1,500-1,600 a week. Sometimes we get a surprise, but yet it's been typical 15.
It'll take us 2 more months before we get,
Right.
you know,
I think
Yes.
the point is we're at least getting a solid number versus early on we were just getting a handful of it.
say, you're gonna say,
It's just not for the county, right?
I'm sorry.
For the county, you're talking about the county vaccines?
Right.
Because I know that Walgreens is starting to do vaccines.
So Walgreens has been afforded an allotment of vaccines on a appointment basis. I'm not too sure the logistics behind it, but I know they're also offering them now. I just don't think in the quantity that the county's been producing, but it's another source.
And then my other question, now that we're keeping the city closed, how are you going to be dealing with all these water bills? Do you do them by phone or?
Very, very carefully.
You know, a lot of people
We-
don't have internet access or
Right.
don't want to talk on the phone.
We would adapt. It's great to say that the majority of the staff, all the staff that opted to get vaccinated, is vaccinated. So that reduces the risk to a certain degree. However, it's not foolproof. So we would figure out a way, even if it's on a scheduling basis, probably man the phones a little bit better. We'll figure it out, Councilman.
but you're gonna be sending the letters out anyway, so.
Right, we still have some time. It'll go out on our next billing cycle, and then we'll see where we're at on that. And we'll put detailed information as to what numbers to call. I think IT can create an additional line. I'm not too sure if we can still do that, just for that. And we can certainly man that or allow it to go into voicemails and then respond. There's a lot of ways we can do this, but in the meantime, I think we should throw as much as we can at it to make sure that the water stays flowing, right, and we still stay secure for the most part.
All right then, well, all in favor to keep it closed, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Number 6, orders. Consideration possible action of order 2021-03-017, an order of the council of the city of Nogales, Arizona, ratifying additional material required to complete the crack seal project on Camino Vista del Cielo. Discussion. Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Thompson, this is going, that's for $2,000 some change order, right?
Yes.
Do we have other bids for this job?
So this comes out of a job order contract, and I know Mike's gonna help me and steer me in the right direction on this. So what it is we get a price listing of what the job entails. In other words, for every foot of crack sealing, it'll cost this much. However, there's a point in time where there's a huge possibility, or at least a possibility, of reaching to a point where material is out, right? And at that point, there are a clause or stipulations in the contract that state that if we get to that point, we are faced with a decision. Do we continue with the project and work on the material cost towards the end, which is exactly what we did, or do we stop, work it around, come back with a change order, and move forward? In this case, we opted to go the first route. Just continue with the project, get it done, and come back with a change order. However, earlier today, and thanks to Mr. Massey, we were looking at alternatives to a solution, and we discovered, or at least we knew that if we all recall, when we went forward with this with these contracts, we had Mastic Way also on the list with an amount of $42,000, give or take, and I think that was back in January. So what we discovered is that although it's a good idea to continue with a change order, we know that it's probably not the perfect way to do so. And what I mean by that is the $42,000 that was allocated for the Mastic project and within the whole project as a whole can be pulled away because we won't be able to successfully repair Mastic with $42,000, and we can apply it to Camino Vista del Cielo. It's all within the language of the contract, all within the scope of work, and it'd be just it'd just be something as simple as moving the money to where it needs to go. Honestly, $42,000 to the amount of repairs we need on Mastic Way is a drop in the bucket. Mastic Way would require a lot more work. We're talking about full-blown paving. I know we have to address some water seepage, depression. There's a lot of things, and while we're at it, I mean, we can certainly throw in some new utility lines if we opt to do so, right? So within the language of the contract, within the scope of the work, and with the authority of the project administrator, in this case, Mr. Guerra, we are inclined to move that route and reallocate those $42,000 that was designated, they're designed for Mastic into this project. Now, does that solve the problem of a low bid? No, it doesn't. Or a low estimate? Absolutely not. We understand that this estimate was pretty weak from the get-go. At least we understand this now, and there actually is no excuse. Should we staff have picked this up initially? Absolutely. If we compare Villa Coronado with Camino Vista del Cielo, which are two projects that went hand in hand with the same company, we could have done the math. We failed to do so. However, I come back to council and say we hit a juncture. We had to decide what to do, so we opted to move forward and complete it. And if I may just go into a little bit of detail on that, to me, I believe that to complete the project and then come into council for any type of change order or reshuffling of funds is probably a little bit better because we completed something than not completing the project and still be discussing what we're discussing here right now and not knowing when the contractor would finish. So in a nutshell, if we can, and I ask council to consider this, allow us to just move that money around, put this behind us, but really, really consider dissecting future contracts with a fine-tooth comb, and now at least we have a basis for comparison. The last time I think we contracted out any crack sealing, especially for Vista del Cielo, was back in 2012-13, and the amount there was $150,000 just for crack sealing. So yes, should we have known better? Absolutely. I say that we should have known better. In this case, it was an oversight on our end.
So you're saying that the city was the one that overlooked that problem?
Not entirely. We are a component as well on the checks and balance scale. The person estimating the job, the individual tasked from the company to come over and give us a good estimate, failed as well, and we failed by not checking that work. I do want to say that initially every day, or actually throughout the whole project, we did have staff at the beginning, in the morning, making sure that X amount of pounds of crack seal were in place. And at the end, prior to concluding the project for the day, they were also counting any poundages that were left over. So we kept a tally up to the first 10,000 pounds. Everything after that, we had to go out and purchase, or at least the company had to go out and purchase. One thing I will say is, in the contract, the company kept their word on saying that they would charge us $1 for cleaning of the actual cracks and $1 to do the work. There is language where if the cracks, such as Camino Vista del Cielo, are too deep, which these were, or too wide, which these were, that number basically goes fourfold. It would have been a $4 charge per each unit. So not to justify the logistics or the rationale behind this, we somewhat saved some money, even though it doesn't seem that way, on labor, because they honored the $1 fee versus the $4 that we could. And that's just putting a little bit of faith behind the contractor at this point. So yeah, I think that's a solution we could do. There is still a shortfall, about $15,000, and I will ask Mr. Guerra to absolutely look for that, so we can look for that money from other resources or sources, so we can actually put this to rest and behind it. we still have two more components, or three more components of East Side Cielo to be completed, which is our chip sealing, our fox sealing, and I think that one also has striping on it. So we could also part ways with the contractor if that's an issue. I know Mr. Massey has some comments on that, that would require some finessing on the legal side. However, I think with this option of moving the money around, we could reach a happy medium, even though it's a sour taste to it.
So when we go out to bid, Mr. Thompson, do we go with the lowest bid or we go with the more responsible?
So
Go ahead, Mr. Massey.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, if I can answer Councilman Mojarquez's question. This is a job order contract that we entered with this entity. And this is a relatively new procurement process that we are essentially getting our feet wet on. And with the job order contract, you do not do a traditional bid, which is, you publish it in the newspaper and you get sealed bids and you go with the lowest bidder. Because this type of work, and this is what I had extensive conversation with staff, especially Mr. Guerra, before we went forward with this job order contract, this type of work isn't susceptible to the normal bidding process because that requires plans, it requires designs and quantities. So what we would do is we would have engaged, an engineer would draw plans, and engineer would come up with estimate of quantities. And we chose not to go that route. That would add an extra layer of cost. And so instead, when you do a job order contract, you go with a contractor such as Sunland, and we also did this with the Tucson asphalt contract that is on a master contract with an entity with whom we have cooperative purchasing relationship. And in that situation, these contractors are pre-certified. They've been deemed responsible and qualified, and then they bid on unit pricing. So what we do is we approve that contract based on the unit pricing that's contained in a master contract that has been bid out by another entity. And the magic of that contract is when you invite someone like Sunland to come and engage with you on a job order contract basis, they're supposed to look at the site, walk the site, and give us an estimate as far as quantities, and then they give us the unit price for the quantities, and then that's the contract that we presented to Mayor and Council that they approved. And in this situation, one component of the whole contract was for $392,000. But that includes, 3 different levels of work on Vista del Cielo, which is a 3.3 mile road. Then it also included Coronado subdivision, and also included Mastic. And we put it all together for $392,000. And so what the acting city manager is mentioning is within that authority that council approved of the $392,000, we can already envision that we're not going to do Mastic. And so part of Sunland's proposal was $43,000 to do Mastic. So we can just say, you're not going to do Mastic. We'll apply that $43,000 to the extra product that was applied to Vista del Cielo, which is the crack sealing compact. And then with that, we're only $15,000 short, but we have another $200,000 approximately left on the same contract, and so we can task the project administrator to get with the vendor, the contractor, and come up with a proposal, a creative proposal to say, where are we going to save that $15,000? And if the contractor wants future work from us, the contractor should come up with a way of, hopefully helping us make that $15,000 gap go away and meet in the middle somewhere.
Your way of answering them.
Did I answer the question, Mayor?
It looked- it
Did I
sounded-
talk too much this time?
No, it sounded really good, and it's the correct one, it's the correct, it's correct.
With a state contract?
This
Yes.
wasn't the state contract, it was called One GPA. So and that's a regional entity. And so they gave us a better price via the One GPA, as I understand it, compared to what would have been available under the state. So, and we went with them because they are a really credible outfit. But that's not to excuse that they totally blew the estimate on the crack ceiling on Business Yellow.
Go ahead.
Have you talked to them about parting, taking some of the costs,
So, Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead.
take
So,
liability for this mistake?
So, Mr. Guerra did have a conversation with the representative of the organization, the company, contractor. And although it's not a big discount, we did get a little bit of a 10%, scruff off from the top. So our new, if we were to go with a full change order, we'd be looking at about $58,000 versus a 62, about a $6,000 scrub off from everything. Another issue that we saw in all this was the fact that traffic control was under anticipated. So personnel had to be taken to the site to make sure that, number one, they're safe and people traveling on the road were safe during the time of construction or maintenance. So that had an added cost, which is also allowable in the agreement. So they threw that out. They totally washed that out, and they accepted that as a full-blown error. I know they have accepted an error on this, and when I say error, it's exactly what Mr. Massey said. It's a God honest, best estimate, and we can all qualify what the word best means depending on the individual at that point. And here we are. So there was, if we were to go with a new change order, we're looking at about a $58,000 change order if we go that route.
So if it's 58 now, and then subtract 43, 44?
43, a little over 43.
Okay, let's go 44 for the sake of City of Nogales. So how much is it that we owe?
14,000.
14,000. And that's one of the things I sat down with Mr. Kissinger about. When you see change orders, you see something in the realm of $12,000, $14,000, $15,000, not $62,000. Of mistakes, and that's why I was so concerned about this, and because being in the construction business myself for over 20 some years, every time an estimate wasn't right, I ate it.
You're a good man, Mayor.
Yeah, I ate it. If it was $500, $200, $300, I ate it. I never went back to the contractor and said, you know what, you owe me $300 because that would probably be my last job. So, but it was not in the 62,000 range. And it's disappointing, okay, I will tell you that, Mr. Thompson. It's disappointing that our staff, and I'm not talking about anybody up in this building, I'm talking in Public Works, staff there could not see the difference of 26,000 for a 3-mile road when it was 11,000 for a quarter mile in Mastic.
Correct.
If you have a quarter mile road of crack seal and it's 11,000, somebody's charging you 26,000 for 3 miles. Something's wrong there. Something's wrong. And that should have been questioned by our employees.
Absolutely right.
I know it's the fault of the contractor for not doing it properly, but also when it came to checking it out and looking at it, the persons that were going to pay for it not observing that problem there. And that is something I cannot myself, accept.
Absolutely right, Mayor.
I accept your explanation of paying $14,000. I accept your explanation of what you explained to Mr. Bojorquez, but I'll never accept that And I'm telling you, to everybody in public that's listening, yes, the mistake was at Public Works. But first, it was presented to them like that. And the thing is that if you're gonna bring something like that to the members of the council, we're not engineers. You're bringing us a proposal and asking us to accept it for the job to get done. You're not telling us, here, look this over. You gotta wait to look at ours, see if you find any discrepancies. You're not doing that. You're bringing it to us and you say, you know what? I'm asking the members of the council to approve this so we can get these jobs done. And that's why we approve it, all right? But that's the extent of it, all right? So, I know you wanna say something.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes,
did we finally find out, did the employees from Sunland, Asphalt actually survey the street?
That, I'm not too sure if there were boots on the ground surveying or if they did a full sweep or extensive survey. Obviously, I can honestly say no, that wasn't done because we wouldn't be having this discussion.
So who would have been in charge of just checking up on that?
That would be the project administrator.
So I guess he didn't check up on it.
Correct.
So I was reading the contract, and I'm not a lawyer or anything, but it did struck me kind of odd at what point we're at right now. I feel like we're Monday night quarterbacking with the people's money. Yes, I'm glad we found $44,000, but we're still spending that additional money. Either way you want to place it, we're still spending that money.
Correct.
And I don't think it's right when we had fail safes within the contract to avoid this. I mean, I was seeing here. Did Mr. Guerra communicate with the superintendent from Sunland? Was there constant communication?
There was dialogue, and I have previewed a couple of emails that they had and shared between. I know there was one specific about we are at a point where we're out of material, and the direction was to continue with the project. And yeah, that's to the extent that I know of. Was there direct verbal contact? From what I'm being told, it was twofold. It was either through the project administrator, Mr. Guerra, on a daily inspection of material, product, and stuff like that, or with our street supervisor. Either or had dialogue with these individuals.
So it was after the fact that they started that's when the communication, but before that, it's whatever, they hand off the ball to Sunland Asphalt, and I guess we take it at face value, the quote, which is wrong. My question is, if it's their fault, why should we pay? Why should we pay?
I understand that, Councilman Moniz. I think that's something on the legal parameters that perhaps can or cannot be discussed, Mr. Massey.
No, I can answer that.
Go ahead, Mr. Massey.
In this contract, again, this is not a sealed bid contract where we're holding the contractor to the bottom line, so to speak, where we selected based on low bid. The real important element of the contract was the unit price. And they made an estimate, and they gave us an estimated cost based on unit price, but the unit price controls. And so when, during the course of the contract, you realize that you need more units, well, then you're gonna pay more units. That's what a job order contract is all about, is that the unit pricing controls, and the volume or the amount at the beginning is estimated. But
They're
before, right.
it went from, what was it, 20?
It went from
26 to almost 62, 64. I mean,
Yes,
you
it was
gotta
way
admit
off.
that
It
it's
was
almost
way
two
off.
times as much.
Right, but
And-
I would say it's not actionable in the sense that we can hold them to the lower figure because they're staying with the unit pricing, and then our project administrator did authorize the additional quantity necessary to complete this project.
I have another question. Did the project manager, when this problem arose, did he first get in touch with the city managers? Did he call you first before he made that change? He signed off on it?
Which change?
It wasn't-
To proceed or?
Yeah, to proceed.
The change order.
The change order.
So, and I apologize, this died on us. Apparently, everything died on us right now. So I don't know if YouTube is dead too. So at this point, to answer the question, I know Juan sent off an email immediately thereafter, and I will say this: when he sent off the email, I glanced at it. I didn't read it in its entirety, so I own some of that fault, if not all of it, as well, by not reading and saying Juan. However, in reading the email, I would have given him direction to continue because I would much rather have this discussion and say we finished the first part of the task and we can still discuss and debate the funding versus we didn't complete anything, but here I am asking for more money. At this point, I think we probably locked the city's hands into the commitment. However, through what Mr. Massey's saying, this is a potential risk with these type of agreements or contracts, and we kind of coined a little phrase on it this morning, saying this could actually also be a once we hit a dead point, it's a pay as you go type of an agreement, which certainly seems to be part of the case.
Well, what are we gonna do to avoid this problem again?
That,
I
Councilman
mean,
Bonilla,
I mean, today it's 58,000, and then we have another project and we have another discrepancy of 10,000. We have another one, we have another discrepancy of 20,000. At what point is someone held responsible?
that Councilman Bonilla ends on my lap, and I can assure you that we will look into this a little bit further. However, I want to point out that in these circumstances, hopefully it works.
Councilman Bonilla, let me mention something.
There you go. Sorry, guys.
I don't think we'll ever see this again. Okay? For the reason that we will never see this again, because the next time somebody from our staff brings something like this to us for approval, there's going to be a lot more questioning before we approve it. When this was brought to us, you weren't in office yet. You had already won the election, but you weren't in office yet.
In January.
January was it? Wasn't it December?
I have the contract.
Yeah, because we discussed this Vista del Cielo in November. Didn't we?
We brought
there
the
was-
contract in January.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We've been
Okay,
working
right.
on this a long time.
Yeah, a
Mayor.
long time. And none of this was discussed. You know, it was what they bring to us is, you know what, this is what it's going to cost us to do these roads, and we say, hey, great, you know, or we say, you know, that's too expensive or whatever. But we never sit down and discuss, you know, pound for pound, linear feet by linear feet, nothing like that, or square feet, nothing. We don't discuss that. That's why we have an engineer, and that's why we have a public works director. When they present this to us, it's because they already saw it, and they accept it, and they're asking us to accept it to involve them. All right? And that's why I'm saying right now, this will not happen again. 12 years I've been as council and mayor, and I've never seen this happen, and it's never happened in any administration. The only change orders we've had in the past is when they want to add more work to it. And they come to us and, you know, they say, you know what, we have an offshoot of a road here. You want us to do this? It's a change order. But not saying that, oh, you know what, we screwed up and it wasn't 26,000, it's 62,000 on top of that todavía. All right? So believe me, that's not going to happen again.
You know, at this point, Mayor, you're telling me that when there's a changeover, they come to council and ask for approval.
That's what we're doing right now. But the change orders that I've seen is because they're adding more work to it, not because they failed to do the proper estimate on it, and now we have to pay for it because there's more product than what they should have done. And that's the part that's not comfortable, you know? It's not like, hey, we're gonna get an extra piece of road, or we're gonna get another extra quarter mile of road, at least that's, I don't know. Is that what we had already bid for, you know, we screwed up and we're asking for material, and that's what it is. That's why it's not gonna happen again. Because next time somebody comes to us from engineering or for public works and says, we want this, oh, they better be prepared now. Because we shouldn't be discussing this. We should just be waiting for the job to be complete. All right?
That's what I hope for.
Yeah. But I know your feelings. I've discussed it with Mr. Kissinger, Mr. Thompson, Mr. Massey already, and the only salvation we got is that we have those extra $40-some thousand from Mastic that was already approved by us to do. So that's money that's already spent, basically, isn't it, Mr. Massey? Not
Well,
spent, but I mean it's there.
Yeah, it's part of this project.
It's part of this
It's-
project.
It's in the project budget.
The scope of the
Right.
And then they're willing to come down $6,000. They should come down $15,000. That's what they should do. But Mr. Guerra's going to find out where he's going to find those $15,000. Hi, Mr. Guerra.
Mr. Thompson,
We lost all audio,
You lost it.
but I will make that commitment.
Mr. Thompson,
The audio is back.
The audio's back.
Okay, there we go.
so Mr. Thompson,
Yes, sir.
Oh,
they haven't started.
do I miss anything?
No, we're good.
They haven't started any work at Mastic.
So Mastic is out of the picture right now. Anything that we were wanting to do on Mastic was, for lack of a better term, underrated. The road needs a lot more and more extensive work. So we're now even exploring to put something together for next fiscal year. And we're hopeful, at least I know in talking to our streets guys, that they're a little bit gung-ho about this project. So to outsource this probably wouldn't be a good thing. We could probably do it internally, in-house. We would explore all options that we would need. But, you know, if the crews are gung-ho about it, I would say let's go with that.
Did you
But
see
that's
the work
something.
they did at Manor, Mariposa Manor,
Yes,
and the other work?
exactly. So-
I went there and there was only one square there.
No, they did the whole street.
They did the whole street because that was
Yeah,
there, like,
from the industrial park all the way to where you go up to private property.
Because when I went there, there was only.
It was
Yeah,
just at the site, so they had to leave one side open for traffic, and then once that portion of the pavement, I guess, cooled down, they just flipped it over and did the other side. So it was
Today they
a
did both that and the cul-de-sac and Urban Wheels. But our staff, our street people can do those.
correct. I mean,
Why was the,
So we could have paid the Mastic for the 62,000.
Easy.
and again, there's no way around it. There's no way around it. I know there's a huge error, and we recognize it all as a whole. The majority of the people understand that there's more than one party involved. There should have been more eyes looking at the contract, more eyes looking at the proposal, and to include mine. This is a lesson learned, at least in my book, and I know that if we ever go down this route on a similar project, I can guarantee you I'll have a calculator at hand, because it doesn't take much to calculate something like that.
Can I speak to Mr. Guerra?
Sure.
Mr. Guerra,
Yes, sir. Good evening.
you have $15,000 in your pocket.
Oops. I will have to wait my next paycheck. No, I'm just kidding. No, what I'm trying to do is I will talk to the contractor and see if what else we can do together.
Okay.
And as well, if somehow we can reduce that amount from Vista del Cielo by our city crews helping with something, I don't know. We need to figure it out. But we can make it work.
Okay, whatever you do with your city crews, don't take Tony's crews up there. They have a lot of work to do. Find somebody else to do it. I think Tony's doing a great job, and we have a lot of work to do in the Valle Verde. But see what you can do, Juan, and let's try to square this thing up. But Juan, I'm going to tell you one thing, Juan. This is not going to happen again. All right. Because for now,
Yeah.
I think the members of the city council are gonna look at the whatever you propose for us to approve in a different way. And we're gonna sharpen our pencils and it's gonna be different. So just get the work done, Juan, and do the best that can be done. And one thing I do want to ask you, do me a favor and go up there and look at the work while they're doing it,
Okay,
por favor.
Are they still gonna do Western and Bautista?
Yeah, the other rooms are still, but it's not the same company.
Right, so if council is inclined to get a quick update on that, if council wants a quick update on that, I can certainly do that in 30 seconds or less.
Pick up what?
An update on the other projects we have pending with Tucson.
No, let's not do
Let's
it.
not do that, okay.
I think our time is up.
All right.
And I think we exhausted this one. And I'm glad we were able to do some type of changes, Mr. Massey and Mr. Spencer.
Actually, he was the brains behind it, and he,
Yeah, because the thing is that I would hate to go into our funds to try to compensate for this when we already approved this at least.
correct.
And it's something that we already had pending. But
Wasn't Sunman also doing Western and Bautista?
So they've completed the crack sealing on that. We still got the other two phases to look at. And those will be running in to schedule come May or June. I think it's May.
that's for fog seal and chip
The
seal?
fog seal, the chip seal, fog seal, and some striping. So that's coming up in the near future.
We have two companies working.
Right. We have Tucson Asphalt that would address the other ones, and they're doing a massive deployment Monday, and they will crank out as much as they can next week.
Make sure you have that conversation that I
Yes, sir.
to you in your office.
Yes, sir.
Are your numbers right before you get started? Because if you're not, then Mr. Massey wants to talk to you.
So,
I'm
so yeah.
serious.
So we'll see a lot of activity in the next week or so with the other paving company, road maintenance crew, and they will be doing a full-blown deployment.
All right. So as of now, let's take a vote on this. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, yeah, we see him. Yes, yeah, we see him. Okay. Yes, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You guys have it.
Mayor, if I may, just for clarification, so it's on the current change order of the 62,000 or Plan B?
Plan B.
Plan B.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because you're not going to find 62,000.
No.
So, Tingula. All right. Okay, number 7, Mayor and Council's report on current events. I'll start with you, Councilman.
Well, thank you so much this month. I went to the flag event at the Consulado, and then I drove around town looking at the paving sites, and the streets department did a really good job. And you know, I just had that one thing about the mastic, about the Mariposa Manor, that I saw that just one square, and I said, you know, are they supposed to pave the whole street here? But I got the explanation, so.
We came out here and nice.
That's practically all I did.
Councilman.
Basically, I've been trying to get Little League going. It's been a battle.
I can imagine.
Unfortunately, we got football, soccer, and baseball trying to go all at the same time, and it's been hard. We're gonna go hopefully April 10th. We want to start, and the board has decided we're down to probably 40% of the kids. 40%. That's it. And if it's 2 teams per division, it is what it is, and we play. I'll try to stretch it as much as not make teams at full capacity. Try to limit it to as low as I can go, so we can play and have room for. Because I know once they start seeing kids out in the field, others are gonna jump and want to play. But it's hard to start something and then try to form a new team. And but where we've been at. You know, we're gonna go, we still don't know if we're gonna have we're trying to avoid the crowds. So we might start without even making an opening ceremony. And just, just play ball and go from there. And
It'll work out, Councilman.
yeah.
It'll work out.
And the other thing, I've been talking to Mr. Thompson. I've been getting bug from the produce industry. I'm trying to bring back at least 6 to 10 hours of the border, Mariposa border, because there are produce companies struggling getting their trucks back to Mexico because they're closing the border at 8 o'clock and they're still unloading at 7, 8 at night, and port drivers can't get back. And it's hurting our overweight fee. The trucks coming over. But it's been a hard season, and they're trying to hopefully with this opening, and if they're gonna open the border, they bring it back to a 6 to 10 hours of the day that has been the norm of Mariposa forever. That's all I got.
Councilman Bonilla.
I'd like to thank the water department, the street department for an excellent job they've been doing. I know it was a big water main breakage at Nogales, and I think they had the service restored by 5:30 or 6.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's not easy, and especially the street department that are kind of understaffed. So if we let them know when you're very brief.
Thank you. Good job. Mrs. Lincoln?
I don't have very much. I just want to thank the employees of the City of Nogales for their resilience and for working hard. I've been going around and I wanted to commend them for their hard work.
Thank you. Councilman?
Well, I'd like to echo my member councilman here on their congratulations to all the city workers, staff for getting all these projects done and doing an excellent job. And they should be proud of themselves. We're proud of them, so I want to thank them very much. And we had our Voice of Democracy Patriots Pin Awards drive-through ceremony February 28th at the VFW. We gave about $1,200 in awards on the 28th. And we also had a small ceremony commemorating the ceasefire and the cease of hostilities Operation Desert Storm back in 91, 30-year anniversary. So a group of us got together, we had a nice little lunch in there and a few speeches. The comrades gave some of their experiences while we were out there, and it was very nice. Very good little event. That's all I got, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Yes, Mayor.
I only have to report that I also attended the Dia de la Bandera at the Mexican consulate. That's my only report.
That's the only report. Okay, on February 2nd, mega cable interview regarding COVID vaccine, and February the 8th, Telemundo interview regarding Grijalva's bill for small businesses. February the 9th, ASU journalism group interview regarding various topics. Same day, TV Azteca interview regarding continued border restrictions. Same day, KBOA interview regarding COVID vaccines. February 18th, accepted the U.S. Census Bureau Gold Award on behalf of the city for a successful census. Same day, Port Authority meeting. February 19th, Fox News interview regarding migrants. February the 24th, Arizona Sonora Ports of Entry Technical Meeting. Same day, the 199th anniversary ceremony for the Mexican flag at the Mexican Consulate. February 25th, we had the SEGO Executive Board meeting, which just, by the way, I was appointed as the first vice chair of SEGO. Congratulations. One step away from being the chair.
And then the world.
In the world. Okay? All right, future agenda items. Yes, go ahead.
Can we have an update on the dog park? You know, the springs right around the corner, and a lot of people wanna take out their pets and walk them around.
All right, anybody else?